Hi, my name is Samuel Hernandez, and I'm going to be doing a video about my reflection for a target market project that I had to do. I had to do this project during Marketing 101 practical application, and essentially, the project itself was to pick an industry that I was interested in and do research based on competitors within the area in order to make a third business for myself using that marketing info to create a niche in the environment. The competitors that I chose were Cicada Club and Delilah. They're two 1920s themed restaurants. That's the industry that I was doing. And essentially, the bulk of my data collection resulted from interviews. I had to do two types, professional and customer interviews, that were more along the lines of conversations. I would go in, talk to them for approximately 5 to up to 15 minutes. In some cases, I did some professional interviews with a manager and other hosts that took about 30 minutes. Those were exceptional for collecting data. But for the most part, they were just conversations. Now, these interviews were the initial step, and they were a very quick barrier that I had to overcome. I often view myself as being intimidating. That's just how people have told me I sometimes can come across because I'm a tall man with, facial hair, and I sort of got in my own head, and I had this underlying assumption that the interviews would go very poorly for me, that they would be difficult, and initially that actually stopped me from making much headway on the project. Um, but through some consulting with my marketing and advisory group, which was other students within the class, I gained a bit more confidence and realized I really just have to go out and do that. And when I did, I found that people were not actually very hesitant towards me. Once I learned to properly convey what I was doing for the project and what my purpose was, I actually didn't intimidate very many people at all. And this really helped me to understand one of the main desires for the project, which was to look at what you believe, your underlying assumptions, and look how they match up with reality, which often aren't the same. That's the whole point of the TMP project, is to get out of my own head and look for data and what it really means. On that note, my data analysis was considerably varied. I had to do analysis on the price, on approximately 15 different decision-making factors that customers had from the professional interviews and customer interviews. What you see here on the screen are some positioning maps where I took two different behavior factors from each, and I put them on a spectrum, and then I took the logos and used those as identification points for where they fell. This would allow me to have sort of a visual, and was actually very helpful in determining where those open spaces were, the niches in the market that I would try to fill, as that was my main objective. And so at the end of the project, I came up with a third business, which I named the Gatsby. It would be different from Delilah and Cicada Club, which mostly targeted very affluent people. Their prices were high, and that was what they were promoting themselves as a very fine dining experience. Whereas the Gatsby would promote itself as a thematic restaurant, which would still have some aspects of the fine dining in that it was very respectful and classy, but not with the same prices, which didn't allow us to do some things like very expensive dishes or very expensive china, things like that. But we could still provide great service with decor, events, staff that all fit the period and allowed people to have a really enjoyable experience. The second greatest challenge for me was the place strategy. I had to determine where exactly I would put my business. And initially, from the get-go, I really wanted to put it in Union Station in Los Angeles. I thought it would be great. It had all this Art Deco, plenty of foot traffic. But then when I started to look at my price analysis, my positioning, my promotion, it didn't really line up with the type of business that I wanted to create. It was very similar to Cicada Club in that it would allow these high ceilings and old architecture to play off of, but it didn't fit with any of my other strategies. And initially, I was inclined to just push forward and get the project done. I thought it was a good idea, it would get me points, so I'd just push everything to the side and say, oh, well, maybe it could fit. But then once I allowed myself to really think through it and I had to create some options, I realized, no, actually, there are better options, even though the play strategy isn't as amazing or unique, it still aligns much better with the rest of it. So I had to step back, analyze my data objectively, and really look at the entire picture comprehensively. And that completely changed where my project was going. But it was a great experience for me to learn how to do that. Overall, I think I learned a lot through this project. My scholastic career up to this point has been mostly first thought, only thought, get it done, just do the assignment. What's the correct answer? Whereas this did have some correct answers, but it was what was my thinking through my analysis? Was it really lining up with the data I gathered? And was I owning my own assumptions and moving past them into what was really going on in the real world? And overall, I think I learned to do that very well. I'm very grateful that I did this assignment. Thank you for listening. Oh, and if you want to see the rest of my target market project, it'll actually be posted on my ePortfolio. I'd really encourage you to check it out. I'm very proud of it. Thank you.